I'm here today in my all people shoes, which I wore at Pride and shared a message with the folks there. These remind me that wherever my feet place me, every human being will be seen and heard and respected. That whatever space I happen to be occupying at a given moment, hatred will not be welcomed. Intolerance will not be tolerated. Discrimination will be shown the door. And one of the reasons I love being in the presence of all of you is that I know I'm in good company. That whenever I step into this space or reach people online through this community, I'm with all people. The lovers, the helpers, the healers, the good troublemakers, the caregivers, the damn givers. And that's who you are. And I know it's a challenge to be those people right now. And I know that we gather here as a people who want to be marked not by hatred, but by love. Not a superficial, ceremonial love that only exists on t-shirts and bumper stickers and memes, but a steadfast, stubborn, sacrificial love that shows up in the trenches of our streets and our hallways and our workplaces and our neighborhoods and does the difficult work that love requires. The kind of love we seek to embody is a love that protects the vulnerable, that embraces the outsider, that sees the overlooked. And staying committed to this kind of love is challenging on our best days. And the problem is that these are not our best days. We are going through it right now, but as I say, we are going through it together. Like hostages. The human rights rollbacks, the civil rights attacks, the dismantling of programs designed to make sure that all people have a seat at the table and a voice in the process, the overreach of our government, those are very real dangers. We're seeing a renaissance of open bigotry, hostility to difference, and people are feeling more emboldened to follow their darkest impulses and abandon their better angels. And if we're going to survive all of this for the long haul, and we are, we're going to need to lean into the strength that is found in true, abiding, joy-filled community like this one. Because much of our fatigue comes from the perceptions that we're the only ones doing what we're doing. That if we pause and rest, the work will pause too. But that's a lie. Because as we saw yesterday, we are surrounded by millions and millions of people who care about what we care about. So what that means is we can abandon the inverted narcissism that says, I've got to do it all. I've got to save the world. No, you can actually rest and be a human being too. One of the greatest dangers of trying to be a person of love in days when hatred seems to be trending is that we dehumanize ourselves by not allowing us to have the full experience of our humanity. Community is like being on a road trip with someone and being able to sleep while they drive. And I want you to feel that you can do that. Because the act of gathering with good people gives you a dissenting opinion to the disastrous headlines and the breaking bad news and the feeling of hopelessness that can come. I know you're committed to the work of real love. Because despite all that you've been through, here you are. And as I shared with my friends at Pride last week, we're going to need 3 things to do this work of real love. Soft hearts, strong spines, and outside voices. We need soft hearts to keep us rooted in empathy in days when cruelty is trending. In a time when compassion is treated like a character flaw and a moral failing, we have to be people who will not allow ourselves to be hardened, who will not stop being burdened by the pain in our path, who will not grow apathetic and turn away from the news, people who will hold tightly to our humanity by seeing the humanity in front of us, even in those who do not see ours. Albert Einstein said, a human being is a part of a whole called by us universe. apart, limited in time and space. Now, he uses the masculine pronouns, but I hope you'll see past this. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as someone separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. But our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. That is some preaching from Einstein. I want to just say that again. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. And friends, that widening of those circles of compassion for us will require us to stay curious about the people in front of us, to desire to learn their stories. Not so that we will agree with them or like them, but so that we can keep ourselves from being afflicted with the same callousness that we see so much around us. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, "We must learn to regard people less in the light of what they do or omit to do, and more in the light of what they suffer." That's not easy to do. To stand in front of someone who is fearful, angry, vindictive, hateful, and to ask not, how do I confront them, but what is happening to them and in them. I come from the tradition of Christianity, and there's this moment where Jesus says he looks at the crowds and he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And I always marveled that Jesus didn't see what they were doing or not doing. He saw what the world was doing to them, and he looked at their internal condition, and that was where the compassion came from. So we need soft hearts. And we need strong spines to stand firm and show resolve in the face of an ever more aggressive culture where bullies and bigots do feel emboldened. And that doesn't mean we become rude or confrontational, but it means we will not allow ourselves or the people we care about, which is all people, to be dehumanized or mistreated or erased. It means we find the courage to be willing to risk something on behalf of the people and the causes that matter to us. And that courage will invite us to emancipate ourselves from niceness addiction. See, I was leading a leadership retreat at a church a few years ago in New Jersey, and we were discussing the reality of a disruptive social justice Jesus and how we can be disruptive social justice people of faith. And one of the women on the ministry team said, "John, we agree with all of this, but we're nice people." And she said, "We're known as the nice church, and we want to be known as the nice church." And I said, "Well, you could be nice. Nice is nice. Or you could be Christ-like." I said, because Jesus was, from the scriptures, direct, unflinching in the face of ugliness. He never dehumanized people. But he wasn't necessarily nice, and he didn't come across as nice to some. And I said to them, maybe it's time we started incarnating the compassionate activist heart of Jesus. Love isn't always a soft, saccharine Hallmark movie pop song kind of thing. Sometimes we have to be good news for the poor and the sick and the vulnerable. And that means being unpleasant news to those who would like to keep them in those places, friends. Real love is not easy or comfortable. It often requires us to be willing to step into the turbulence and discomfort on behalf of someone that we love. And that might mean encountering pushback on behalf of someone else. It might mean leaning into a difficult conversation. It might mean braving an awkward silence. It might be doing something you've never done before. And see, there's a toxic cocktail of self-preservation, laziness, aversion to conflict, and genuine fear of losing connection with people that keeps us silent in the times where we feel like we need to be strong and steady. No one wants to be the creator of conflict. Not even me, despite what many may think. No one wants to bring disruption to a community. No one wants to start uncomfortable conversations. And no one wants to be disliked. But that is the job description of being a person of faith, morality, and conscience in days when hatred is experiencing a renaissance. Maya Angelou says, have enough courage to trust love one more time, and always one more time. So where does the courage need to show up for you? We need soft hearts, we need strong spines, and we need outside voices. The reason why is because we don't have to look too far to realize how loud the voices of exclusion are right now. We simply turn on the news, or we hop on social media, or we head to a community meeting. The joy stealers are loud. And what that means is that we, the people of love and justice and diversity and inclusion, we have to speak with volume and clarity in our family gatherings. As we talk to our neighbors, as we post on social media, as we participate in the life of this community, we can't let our heart for all people be our best kept secret. Right now, if you're aspiring to be an anti-racist person, you aspire to be a friend to immigrants, you aspire to be an advocate for the LGBTQ plus community, and your life is unaffected, you're probably not visible or vocal enough yet. This is not about being aggressive, but unapologetic. Not about being confrontational, but refusing to cower in the face of another person's dehumanization. Because remember, our humanity, when we can see the humanity in another, that is the greatest gift that we can offer them. I'm getting older, and I am getting tired, and I want to remove any doubt as to what I value. I don't want my passions to be my best kept secret, because I believe you can be both loud and loving at the same time. So we need soft hearts and strong spines and outside voices. And we have a secret weapon in the fight for a more diverse and welcoming America that those wishing to prevent it will never have. We have something precious that no laws or politicians or churches or pastors or strangers can take away from us. We have a defiant, unrelenting joy that will not be denied. That joy was all over the place yesterday. It was everywhere at Pride, but it's here right now. This is not a grim funeral for something that is dying. This is a jubilant, defiant dance party for what could be. There is a toll that witnessing so much suffering takes on compassionate people, especially when you work so hard to remain awake and aware. Being reminded every day of just how many human beings are experiencing brutality can gradually suffocate the spirit, rendering us joyless. And at Pride last week, one of the first sounds I heard was the sound of laughter. And then I heard the sound of my own laughter. And I realized how infrequently I have heard that sound lately. Joy is restorative, it is infectious, and it is essential for the work of liberation. It is the counterpoint to the misery of those seeking other people's imprisonment or silencing or eradication. So we cannot become as miserable as those we oppose. We cannot become as miserable as those who are at war with the world. We cannot allow our response to hatred to make us hateful, because that will exhaust us. So we will let our defiant, relentless, unstoppable joy be the counterpoint to the ugliness around us. Now, I spoke at Pride a couple weeks ago, And the disruptors were there. You know who I mean when I say disruptors. And I was at the grocery store a couple of days after Pride, and I got a tap on the shoulder in the checkout line, and the guy said, "Hey, are you John Pavlovitz?" I said, "I never know." "Yep, I guess I am." And he said, and I recognized him immediately from the signs that he had been holding at Pride. And he said, "Oh, I follow you on Twitter." And I said, "Oh, nice to meet you." And he said, "I was at Pride." He said, "I was on the other side." And I said, "I know." And he said, "Would you mind having a conversation for a second?" I said, "Sure." So I finished my stuff, got my cart, pulled outside. I'll be writing more about this, but in the time we have, I'll just share that he was clear in the intentions of the people that he was with, the plans they have, the feelings they have toward diversity. And it is as frightening as you might imagine. I did my best to see his humanity and to respond with the best of mine. Sometimes I failed in that conversation as I replay it, but I also said to him, because one of the last couple of words he said to me were veiled threats of, "We're just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and louder and louder." And I said, "Well, that's fine, because so are people of love." I think he was taken aback by my directness in this entire conversation, but I said, "I and people like me are not going to allow you to erase people." It's as simple as that. So here we are. So we do need soft hearts, strong spines, and outside voices. So my question that I shared with Pride is a question I want to ask you today. What do you want to see happen in this world? What kind of America do you dream of seeing? What kind of North Carolina do you dream of seeing? What kind of Wake Forest do you dream of seeing? Because what you want to see will tell you who you need to be. What you want to see will tell you what you need to be. And I dream of seeing this place become a safe place for the entire queer community, gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender and non-binary, non-conforming. And so I'm going to be visible and vocal in my advocacy and allyship as best I can. I dream of seeing this place embrace the beauty only found when our racial, ethnic, sexual, and cultural diversity is welcomed. And so I'm going to be someone who shows up when any group is facing exclusion or intimidation or cancellation. I dream of seeing this place, the area in which we live, become a beacon for human beings of every pigmentation, orientation, heritage, and nation of origin. So I'm going to be present whenever individuals or collectives attempt to marginalize anyone. So this is your homework, to clarify what you want to see and then decide who we will choose to be. Because yeah, we like to say love wins, but it doesn't just win because we want it to. Because we wear it on our chest, because we put it on our bumpers. Love will not win on its own simply because. But courageous, empathetic, fiercely passionate people, armed with sacrificial love, participating in the political system, relentlessly engaging the broken systems around them, they will win. Wherever the disparate, sprawling army of compassionate human beings spend themselves on behalf of other people, when they keep going despite being exhausted, when they refuse to tire of doing the right thing, when they will not be shamed into silence, then love will be winning. Because friends, love isn't some mysterious force outside of our grasp and beyond our efforts. It exists connected to everything. It's not supernatural magic, it's hard work. It's the cause and effect of caring about our families and about neighbors and about strangers and exercising that impulse in measurable ways. Because love is ornamental and worthless unless it moves from aspiration to incarnation. If you'll willing to show up to create the world you wish to see? Just say, I will. Will you leverage your privilege on behalf of people who have less of it? Will you be clear in your advocacy for all human beings? Will you stand up to the bullies and the bigots whenever they show up? Will you live with a soft heart that centers compassion? Will you stand with a strong spine in the places where courage is called for? Will you speak with an outside voice that refuses to be quieted or silenced? Will you choose to be a builder of the world you wish to see? Will you make sure that love has the last, loudest word? You will. Thanks, friends.